Hello, I'm Dr. Paul Dyer. Welcome to Bridges Live. And no, I do not have my partners here, Hope Ann Dyer, my daughter, or Ashley Johnson. But I am want to talk to you today about a specific information. And I think I'm going to do that when it comes to something that I want to get you from here to there. So, as you know, being a doctor of holistic sciences, I want to. There's things that I feel that we don't get a chance to always talk about, even on our show Bridges Live, which is every Monday at 8 p.m. You can catch us on Instagram and Facebook Live, and then you can also catch the podcast that I would put on here from the show. When I want to talk about some of the things about the holistic sciences, I want to talk about the autonomic nervous system. And when we talk about the autonomic nervous system, we also know that 60% of our sicknesses comes from psychosomatic. So that means you are creating your sickness. And you've heard this, you may even read it, you may even seen, like, how is that possible? You may not have believed it, and you're like, well, I'm trying to live the best life I can. And then that's why we always talk about living your best life. But the autonomic nervous system is an essential factor to health conditions. It is often never regulated. And that's why when we talk about the martial sciences, we talk about regulating that nervous system, because that nervous system it's a primary, right? It's a primary to all things, and I don't want to teach you about the nervous system, but it is the primary things in the body. And that is a function when we start moving the body, we start stretching the body, we start have absorption from our environments, we have absorption of the things of our thoughts. Because in our thoughts changes the chemical release in the nervous system. The body has no choice but to do it. Now, you have what you call voluntary and involuntary actions. Now, when we break up into different groups of the voluntary nerve groups or involuntary nerve groups, we have consciousness is a voluntary movement, right? The involuntary nerve groups operate for actions. They have very little to do or nothing to do with voluntary control, because they just are going to happen. But the voluntary nerves that's something you can actually control with your consciousness of thoughts and actions of your actions, your thoughts. So this is why that nervous system is so important. And it breaks down in the body. And as the body starts to break down between what is a negative response and what is a positive response. And this is just going with the voluntary, right? The voluntary nerve group. These things branches out, right? And then you have the parasympathetic is a subcategory. Then you have your baseline and metabolism. You have these things. And some of these stress responses that we know are freeze, and that's the one thing people forget about. Flight or fight, these are some of the stress responses that are in the nervous system. Now, it's not just you on a physical side, but it's also your nerves are going through these different types of stages also. It can either freeze, fight, or flight. Now, if your thoughts are causing them to freeze, what do you think is happening to your cells and your nerves and the actions of your nerves and the cells? And if it's causing it to fight, that means it's triggering a negative response. It's got to go up against something, right? Because these are the things we want to talk about. Is like you have the vagus nerve, you have the sacral, you have the plexus, you have these. And I was doing today with the movements of Tai Chi, martial sciences, and how we open up these different places in our bodies so we can release some of this tension, release some of this elixir, release some of the juices of life, and it goes up into the spine. And that's, right, we're going to see that nervous system, the spine, the connection, the signals, it goes up into the spine. And then it goes up into our cranial nerves, and then it opens up into our consciousness. So this is the reason why I want to talk about this, is because everything is so connected. Everything is so positively connected and negatively connected. Take your time, because this is a podcast and this is something you hear, I want you to look at your nervous system. Go look at a book. We got all these mobile phones and these phones that could just show the things. Just go look it up, and you'll see how this thing is amazingly connected. And then I want you to look at that vagus nerve, and then you'll start to see how what I'm talking about and how the elixir of life is opened up into like we call the solar plexus, and then the hip and the hip flexors, and down into the sacrum, and then in the cranial nerves. You have your 12 cranial nerves. Before we get into that, just please know that your nervous system is very important. Voluntary actions is very important. That's something you can choose in your consciousness, and then you can always keep moving forward. I love you dearly, and I want us to all live our best life. So you listen to Bridges Live with Dr. Paul, and you'll catch us again later. I'm Dr. Paul, and you'll be listening to Hope W Dyer and Miss Ashley Johnson. We'll be talking to you later. Thank you so very much.